Good evening, Northern Michigan. Happy Friday. You're watching Unscripted. Cody Bear filling in for Maya Engel. Maya was actually in the field reporting, and she'll be joining us a little later. More on that in a second. First, weather-wise, it's been a decently nice day. We saw some fog. Joe, what should we expect this weekend as we're kind of really getting into it now?
Yeah, well, it's always, every weekend comes around, we hope for decent weather, and we will see that this weekend coming up. It was cloudy. Of course, we had all the rain yesterday. But just in time for the weekend, we're going to break the clouds up tomorrow, Cody, and get some sunshine in here. So it looks like a nice one on the way in, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll also look at all the way through next week, what to expect weather-wise coming up in a few minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Now, our top story of the night, a tragic crash involving the Charlevoix High School golf team has sparked an overwhelming wave of support from across northern Michigan. Tonight, our Maya Engel reports that message is being shared with just 2 words: Raider Strong.
Raider Strong, it may be only 2 words, but it stands for something bigger.
The message Raider Strong ringing out well beyond the halls of Charlevoix High School.
We make a small community a large community just by coming together.
Students and staff at Central Lake and East Jordan schools substituting their own school colors for Raider Maroon on Friday.
If they're hurting, we're hurting too.
The Charlevoix golf team's van was involved in a head-on collision in Benzie County last Sunday, sending the coach and 7 golfers to the hospital.
They did nothing wrong, just in the wrong place, the wrong time.
It just couldn't have happened to a more undeserving group of people.
As the news spread of the crash, so did the support from neighboring towns and rival schools.
The Charlevoix East Jordan rivalry is strong.
But after a tragedy like this, these communities stand together, no matter the school.
We may be competitive out on the field or on the track, wherever it may be, but when something like this so tragic happens, we all come together and show our support.
Things like that just really rock small communities, and obviously in our area we have a lot of small school districts. We're connected.
For some, they're connected in more ways than one.
I went to school in Charlevoix. I graduated in Charlevoix, and Doug Drenth, the coach on the golf team, was actually my principal for several years, and he was my high school algebra teacher.
I have a kid who's my best golfer, and his cousin is the golf coach that was driving the van that was injured the worst, and it hit home.
Especially for Larry Rager, who wears many hats for Central Lake schools, including athletic director and golf coach.
I drive the van when we travel to events, and so having kids' lives in your hands is a big deal, and making sure that everybody arrives safely to and from is a big deal.
And as the Charlevoix golf team continues to recover, they'll do so knowing an entire region is standing beside them.
If one unit falls down, we're there to bring them back up.
United and proud to be
Raider Strong.
Raider Strong.
Raider Strong.
Raider Strong.
Raider Strong.
And that was Maya Engel reporting. She joins us now from the UpNorthLive Content Center. Maya, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about, the conversations that you had with students and staff, how they found out about it and how this kind of got started?
Sure. So as you can tell by my story, I talked with a lot of different people today, a few staff members, a few students, and really their reaction when they found out about the crash was kind of all the same. For a lot of them, they were shocked, especially when they found out that it was a crash that was involving either some of their maybe colleagues just at a different school or some students that are right around their same age. I think it really put things into perspective for a lot of them. I talked with 2 superintendents, one from East Jordan and one from Central Lake, and they both said, as superintendents, we work with students every day, of course. They're kind of in charge of all these kids' lives. And this is really the worst case scenario, the last thing that they would ever wish to happen on anyone. And they also said it really just, like I said, puts things into perspective that, this did happen to, unfortunately, the Charlevoix golf team, but it could have happened to anyone, and it could happen at any point to any single person. So I think it was just a big wake-up call, especially for some of the students. I talked with 2 high school students at Central Lake High School, and for them, they say now that they're in the car, it really kind of makes them think twice now that they have people outside of their community who, again, are a similar age to them, having to go through such a traumatic experience or in the healing and recovering process. They told me they're being a little extra careful behind the wheel now and just paying a little extra attention.
Yeah, and you could see it a bit in your story, but as you know, you were there both with the tragedy and the support today that was being shown. What were the emotions of some of the student and staff that you spoke with?
Yeah, it was kind of bittersweet because, of course, it's just an absolutely tragic event that, again, no one wants this to ever happen, especially to young adults and, you know, adults who are ready to potentially start a next chapter of their lives. There's only about a month left of school, and I'm sure some of these kids were getting ready to graduate. So, of course, emotions were heavy, but on the other hand, like the superintendents I talked with, Superintendent Cunningham and Superintendent Bacon, they both said as leaders of their schools, they are extremely proud of not only their staff, but also their students for wanting to come together to show support for these students who most of them don't even know. Maybe some of them have a few connections like you heard in my story, but for the most part, a big chunk of these students, they don't know any of the students involved with the Charlevoix golf team, yet they all still wore maroon, they painted signs, they made ribbons. So again, it's kind of bittersweet, and this is really the silver lining to situations like this. It's so tragic, but to see how so many different communities come together to show their support, and like I mentioned in my story, some of these schools are kind of considered rivalries. They play each other at regionals and different sporting events, and they do see each other around, maybe not all the time. They might not play each other in their normal conference or normal season, but like you heard in my story today, that rivalry was just put aside and everyone put on some maroon and was really just showing that they are Raider strong.
Yeah, putting that rivalry aside, that's really special. Yeah. I know you talked to the superintendents. Was there anyone else with the public school district that, you know, you were able to talk to or hear from?
So yeah, as I mentioned, I talked with two superintendents. I also talked with, you heard from Larry. He wears many hats for Central Lake School. He is the principal for the middle school and the high school. He's also the athletic director and the coach of the golf team. And so we talked about how close the golf community is. And he mentioned in my story that one of his best golfers on his team, his cousin, is actually the coach of the Charlevoix golf team. And he is struggling with some of the worst injuries because he was the driver of that van that got hit. And, you know, for him, I think it really hit home for Larry because he told me, and again, you heard this in my story, but he is the one for Central Lake who drives the van. He does what the Charlevoix golf coach does very often. And so for him, you know, he kind of said like, wow, it just really, again, puts things into perspective of how precious people's lives are. And he always takes his role very seriously behind the wheel, driving all of these students. But again, he just kind of thought like this really could have happened to anyone. And just to give a little more background information on the crash, we have been following it for quite some time now since it happened last Sunday. But in case you folks watching don't know, it was not anyone in the van's fault at all. It was actually another vehicle, a person who had stolen a vehicle in Antrim County and then drove it into Benzie County. They ended up crossing the center line and hitting the van head on. The driver of that SUV that was stolen did pass away at the scene. So it was just one of those freak accidents where the driver of the van, the golf coach, didn't do anything wrong. No one did anything wrong. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, and as you continue to look into this, have you heard any more updates about the conditions of the students in that van?
So the last updates that we have heard from different school officials with Charlevoix is that some of the students have been released from the hospital, but the coach and other students from the golf team are still in the hospital tonight. We really don't have any other updates. We don't know the extent of their injuries at this point, but they are at Munson Medical Center in Traverse City.
Yeah, those are the biggest questions I have for you, but is there anything, you know, with this story that you wanted to talk about and leave us with?
Yeah, I do want to mention that we have been in contact with school officials at Charlevoix Public Schools, and we did ask if it would be okay if we went to their school today for Raider Strong Day, and the superintendent told us that it was just a little too soon, which totally makes sense. You know, their kids are still dealing with a lot of emotions right now, but he did send us a statement. So this is from Charlevoix Public Schools Superintendent Michael Ritter. He said, quote, "We are incredibly grateful for the overwhelming outpouring of support from our community, neighboring districts, local businesses, and the junior golf program. Your kindness has provided comfort and strength to our students, families, and staff during this profoundly difficult time. We ask that you continue to keep our students and coach in your thoughts and prayers as they continue to heal. Hashtag Raider Strong."
Yeah. Up North Live's Maya Engel, thank you for joining us today. And we do have a link to a GoFundMe for the golf team on our website, UpNorthLive.com. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit. The Michigan Army National Guard welcomed students from across northern Michigan to Camp Grayling. It was for its annual Meet the Guard community event. Up North Live's Audrey Boucher spoke with both guardsmen and the students as they share what makes this hands-on experience stand out.
It's just really cool because they see us, but again, they don't really know much about us. So it's like a good way for them to kind of see like both sides of us, the regular guy on the one side and then the soldier side.
Hundreds of students from schools across northern Michigan gathered at Camp Grayling to not just learn about the National Guard and what it does, but to get to know the people that wear the uniform.
They know about us, but they don't really know what do we really do day in, day out. So this is a good way to showcase our capabilities as citizen soldiers. You know, a lot of us are, teachers, they're principals, they're doctors, all different walks of life. But on the weekends, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer, we put on the uniform to serve our communities.
Students broke out into groups and explored different job backgrounds that the guardsmen do, such as firefighting, law enforcement, robotics, cooking, and infantry. They could even try out some of the equipment and learn what it does. Newly added this year was a live infantry demonstration from the 126th Infantry Battalion.
It's a good experience so far. We saw a tactical operation first, saw how they took down a target and how they eliminated said target.
Jaden says this was his second year attending Meet the Guard, and his favorite thing about it was
the vehicles everywhere. There's so many vehicles. Right next to me, there's a Humvee. There's fire trucks down there, all sorts of vehicles. There's some tanks over there. It's just really cool to see all of them in person, climbing in them and having that experience. I find that really cool.
Members of the National Guard shared that community events like these help build stronger connections between National Guardsmen and the communities they serve.
A lot of people don't really know what the National Guard is or does or what kind of equipment we have, and so it's awesome to see when they come up here and they see everything that we can do and offer and get kind of hands-on.
Students also had the chance to learn how they could turn their interests into a future career with the National Guard.
A lot of people get twisted up that you choose the uniform and then you put your other aspirations away. And we're here to show you that you can do both, because we have a lot of people that are in MSP, police officers, nurses, doctors, that you can do both and still serve your country and community.
In Crawford County, Audrey Boucher, Up North Live News.
Today, Mackinac Island celebrating its official start to the tourist season. People are already making their way to the popular vacation spot. Officials say it takes a lot of people to keep the island going over the summer and into the fall. The island needs about 5,000 workers every season.
So we use the H-2B visa system, and so for every one H-2B visa worker we bring to Mackinac Island, 4 American workers can work. So it's a great combination. And with our visa workers, it's part of the fabric and the culture of what we do here, and our visitors expect to see them, and they know them because a lot of these folks have been here for 25, 30 years.
Many of the hotels and inns, including the Grand Hotel, opened today. Other places and restaurants are set to open throughout the month. And that does bring us to our question of the day today. The question is, how often do you visit Mackinac Island? And your options are at least once per year, 2 or more times per year, every few years, or not at all. The two at the top right now, every few years, has 50% of the vote. Not at all has 33% of the vote. There is still time to vote on our website, UpNorthLive.com, and our Facebook page. We'll be taking a look later to see how things kind of change throughout the evening. And that brings us to our first break, but right after this commercial break, Joe Charlevoix will tell you the weather going into your weekend. Stay with us.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Well, it's Friday, and a lot of us are really starting our weekend now. So if your weekend does have, implications with weather, you'll want to listen up. Joe Charlevoix joining us now. Joe, what will that look like?
Well, it looks pretty good, actually, both Saturday and Sunday. A little cloud cover maybe in the morning tomorrow. But as time goes on, we'll break the clouds up and see sunshine tomorrow, but then also on Sunday, too. So nice weekend coming up. Look at the view in Cadillac. Interesting, the sun trying to break through here after a pretty cloudy day so far. It is 50 degrees there in Cadillac, a bit of a north wind. And again, at least overhead now, a partly cloudy sky. Of course, we had all the rain yesterday. And then today, we've just kind of been hanging around under the clouds for most of northern Michigan, although there was a bit of a hole in the cloud cover out over Lake Michigan. So if you're in the Frankfort, Manistee, Ludington areas, you've had some sunshine this afternoon, but you're kind of surrounded by clouds there. We also had in the UP a little bit of rain earlier. In fact, I'll run this out back over the last 5 hours. You can see some of that rain. Not a lot. It was just very light near Lake Superior. West of there, look at this, even a little bit of snow up around Munising and Marquette up there across parts of the UP. So probably not accumulating even much up there, but it is chilly. Here are the numbers right now. Newberry's at 40. 50 once you go south Cadillac, Reed City, Big Rapids, Mount Pleasant in the 50s at this hour. But temperatures are below normal. If you're wondering, well, what is normal for early May? It's upper 50s and low 60s. So we're running a bit short on that. Part of that is not only the cloud cover, but our wind. If you look at the direction here, it's coming right out of the north. That's going to remain that way through the weekend. We'll have more of a north-northeast wind. So that'll keep it on the cooler side. We're not looking at anything, record cold or anything like that, but it's not going to be super warm either. So overnight, you can see these clouds right through here. There's tomorrow morning. And then watch as we get into the afternoon. You see the clock up there. There go the clouds. And I would imagine by 3, 4 o'clock, we'll end up with some sun, night stay. Then Sunday, same story, a beautiful afternoon for northern Michigan. There will be some clouds coming in late Sunday night into Monday right there, passing through. And then a couple showers are possible on Monday too. As far as rain over the next week, there's not a lot. Early next week, we could see a couple showers. So I'm going to take, this is like an entire week. I'm going to add this up right there. A lot of rain out in the northeast, New York City, that region, looking at quite a bit of rain up toward Boston, but not a whole lot here. So it was actually good we got the rain we did yesterday because we're looking at a bit of a dry stretch coming up here. Also, our UV index forecast, 3 to 4 on a scale of 0 to 11, or 1 to 11 rather. So in that low to moderate category for sunshine. And there is our look ahead. Beautiful weekend. Then an increase in clouds Monday, Tuesday. The word on there is few, meaning a couple showers around, but it's not going to be a whole lot as we go into next week. So really, big picture here, Cody, it looks like a pretty quiet stretch coming up over the next 7 days.
Nice. You love to see it. And you love to see the sun so much on that 7-day forecast. That's nice.
After that long winter, for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. And the Pistons playing to keep their season alive last night. We're going to bring in sports director Harrison Beebe to talk about that and what you have to look forward to tonight on the sports docket. Don't go anywhere. The Detroit Pistons playing to keep their season alive last night in Game 6 of a first-round series with the New York Knicks. So to break it down a little bit, we're going to bring in our sports director, Harrison Beebe. Harrison, the season coming to an end for the Pistons.
Yes, Cody, it has. But you know what? If you'd have told all of us back in October that Detroit would actually go farther in the playoffs than LeBron James and the LA Lakers, we might think you're kind of full of it.
Yeah,
and that turned out to be a pretty productive season for the Pistons. Their best season, really, in a solid 17 years since the run to the 2008 Eastern Conference Finals. But yes, bowing out in 6 games to the New York Knicks, although a majority of those games are pretty competitive. The last 4 games separated by 3 points or less each time. And so the story goes, the Pistons go into the offseason now and have to figure out what they want to do with their roster. We know Malik Beasley, Dennis Schroeder, and Tim Hardaway Jr. are all free agents this summer. So who will they be bringing back? Maybe all 3, maybe just 2 of 3. We'll have to find out what Trajan Langdon and the front office want to do for sure. The Tigers want to make note, for a lot of people who were just focused on the Pistons and then kind of dwelling over what happened at Little Caesars Arena, the Tigers had a huge comeback on the road against the LA Angels. Down 4-2 in the 8th, they scored, I think, 8 runs in the final 2 innings there to win 10-4, good buddy, out there in LA. And they'll be back at it tonight, Tigers and Halos, Game 2 in Los Angeles. And Cody, let's talk about, we like to go outside the box when you and I do Unscripted together. Let's talk about the Kentucky Derby and the 3-1 favorite. The horse's name is Journalism. So we here at Up North Live, you know, love supporting horses that support our majors in college. And yeah, so I think a lot of us will be interested to see how journalism fares in that field at the Kentucky Derby tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the thought process in the name. I'm cheering for Journalism now. That was all I had to hear. You a Derby watcher? Are you going to be paying attention?
I hadn't. I actually just looked up the odds this afternoon, so that was the first time. I usually only until we get to Saturday, and I really look and say, oh, okay, those are the horse names this year. But figured to do a little advanced research this time around, and what do you know? They're paying tribute to us hardworking journalists.
Yeah, exactly. I'm usually the same way. But again, look at us. We're going to pay attention, watch, and we have a favorite going into it. Thank you for joining us, Harrison. And we're going to take one more break. When we get back, we'll take one last look at our question of the day. Join us on the other side.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Well, tourism season kicking off over at Mackinac Island today, and that of course, is our question of the day, which is how often do you visit Mackinac Island? As of right now, the top vote getter is every few years with 53% of votes. Not at all is at 31%, at least once per year, 10%, and 2 or more times per year at 6%. A couple Facebook comments Candy said about every 2 years. It is an expensive but very enjoyable treat, so I plan for it and really enjoy myself when I do go, rain or shine. And then Debbie said, never been, and neither have I, Debbie, but looking to cross that off the bucket list, maybe this tourism season if I'm lucky. Thank you for those comments, and thank you for joining us on Unscripted. Have a great weekend, Northern Michigan.